Okay, hi everybody. Welcome to the April meeting of the PRC. So glad to see you here. We have a couple of regrets, we won't be seeing Rob, although he did provide a report for us that I'll read in a few minutes. Howard and Peter. Peter had just to run out and need to make you get back in time for the meeting. So those are the regrets we have. So first things first, can I have a motion to adopt the minutes as circulated? Sarah, seconder, Dick. All right, all in favor? Great, thanks very much. Okay, next item on the agenda, major news items. So I've started doing this over the course of the last couple of months. So you'll see here that I've just parsed out the items that have been in the news over the course of the last month. So since the last meeting, it's pretty straightforward what I've got there. And we're going to touch on some of these that are relevant to what we have on the agenda. But I've itemized them there. Are there any other items in the news in the last month that anybody wants to discuss? Hmm, Okay, we'll see what comes up during the meeting. Okay, so moving on to business arising, that deals with the committee, the parliamentary committee work. So the first committee is the Commons, Justice, and Human Rights, and that would be Sarah, please.
Okay, so since March 17th, which was our last meeting, the Justice Committee met four times, March 23rd, 5th, and then April 13th and 15th. Mostly focused this time on Bill C-16. C-9 had its third reading in the House of Commons and is now moved to the Senate. So mostly these meetings were all about Bill C-16. So I just kind of put a blurb together about what the major points of that bill are and what's being discussed. So recent coverage of Bill C-16, the Protecting Victims Act, is generally framing it as a major update to Canada's criminal justice system, especially how it responds to newer and less visible forms of harm. So much attention is being given to the coercive control aspect of this bill. They've made it an amendment to the bill that basically says that coercive control is punishable, much more seriously punishable. So not just physical violence for criminal charges. So there's been a focus on the provisions that would treat gender-based killing more seriously, as well as measures are aimed at tackling online harms like AI-generated sexual content and exploitation involving minors. So overall, the tone of the coverage, like the media coverage of this bill, has been not as controversial as C9. I know there was a lot of filibustering and stuff going on with that bill. So this has been very non-political and very kind of just very focused on the intent to protect the victims, while raising cautious questions about how concepts like coercive control are going to be defined and applied in practice with this bill. Because basically, if somebody dies in a domestic violence scenario, coercive control can be basically applied to the bill at this point to increase the charge to first-degree murder, whereas it wouldn't be before. So that's the main amendment that's, I think, gaining a lot of focus with this bill. So the major kind of area where the PRC could be involved is if we wanted to write a brief about this bill. The definition of coercive control and how that's going to be interpreted by the justice system moving forward is probably the biggest area of focus that's kind of up for debate right now. Yeah, that's what I've got right now.
Well, thanks, Sarah. Before I ask for questions or comments, if there's anybody who is interested in doing a brief, and not just in the group here today, but those who watch the video, if you're interested in doing that, please let me know. And then we'll bring it back to the PRC and take it from there. Any questions or comments on Sarah's report? Okay, thanks, Sarah. Next is the Public Safety National Security report. That's what Rob usually does. Rob's away. He's actually in a time zone where he's now sleeping. So he sent me an email this morning with the doings of the committee. So I'll bring everybody up to date. The March 24th meeting was about the subject matter of the supplementary estimates of 25 to 26. SECU members questioned the Minister of Public Safety and the senior leadership of the CBSA, the RCMP, and CSC, mostly the CBSA and the RCMP, about previously established plans familiar to everyone, such as the recruiting and hiring of new members. The PRC may be interested in following information from this meeting. The CBSA reported hiring 50 officers last year and having 90 at the college scheduled to graduate in June, and that every cohort after that will be attributed to the objective of hiring 1,000 new officers. 750 officers can be trained at Rigaud each year, but close to 300 covers attrition. The RCMP reported with the budget coming after April the 1st, 2026, they planned a series of hirings for 750 police officers. They're also planning to hire 250 public servants. There have been 18,000 applicants since April the 1st, 2025, and a more streamlined process is needed to get a desired 6-month window for recruitment. Additionally, the funding in the supplementary estimates will hit 3 key areas: federal policing investigative capability, cross-border criminal activity, and synthetic drugs, while also hitting drug-impaired driving enforcement and the national security and intelligence review requirements. On the topic of the firearms buyback program, the RCMP reported 26,000 individuals declaring 52,000 prohibited firearms. The minister answered several questions regarding the circumstances of an offender previously convicted of first-degree murder of a boy being released on a temporary absence in Ontario. Questions pertain mainly to offender security classifications and overrides of them. The March 26th meeting was about the role of the CBSA in the H2O highway corridor and port clearance practices. The written record of this meeting is unavailable as of today, but previous meetings on this subject have been of no relevance to the PRC. And if anyone has any questions, Rob indicates that you're welcome to feel free to contact him by email. Okay. Next, we're dealing with the Senate Committee's Legal and Constitutional Affairs. That's Martin, and Martin isn't here today, so we don't have a report, so we'll ask him to bring that up to date for us next month. And Senate and Human Rights, that would be Dick.
Yes, there really wasn't anything relevant to the PRC. They're continuing their study of the impact of artificial intelligence on human rights and economic security, and they're just hearing witnesses. I have nothing to add.
Okay, thanks, Dick. Okay, very good. Thank you. So that's our parliamentary committees. Going further into business arising, sub-item J, which is the Miscarriage of Justice Review Commission. I can bring you up to date somewhat. So in my role as the Executive Director of Miscarriage of Justice Canada, I've been corresponding with the Minister of Justice's office, Sean Fraser, and I've also been corresponding with the Prime Minister's office. And I received an email on Monday from Minister Fraser's office indicating that a meeting will be set up with myself and his parliamentary secretary the first week of May to talk about the actual logistics of bringing the commission into effect. So obviously I can report back to everybody at our next meeting in May about the subject matter discussed at that meeting. So in any event, it's a good thing that they've actually reached out to actually have a conversation, because this is something that has been really dragging on for a very long period of time. The Miscarriage of Justice meeting, which is later this week, will discuss whether a further follow-up with the Prime Minister's office is required in light of the meeting being set up for the Department of Justice meeting. So we'll take it from there. And again, I'll report back next month. Any questions about that? Okay. Sub-item K, and this is what Irving was mentioning earlier. This is Ontario's plans to require cash bail with sureties in virtually every application for bail that comes before the Ontario courts. We filed a brief that was prepared by Martin and received confirmation through one of the NDP MPP's office that we would be on the list for a delegation for the meeting in committee, which is actually taking place tomorrow. I hadn't heard anything from the committee, so I wrote to them earlier with very little response. So I ended up calling the clerk of the committee yesterday. So I talked to him. He indicated that we are not on the agenda. to be heard tomorrow, and he just confirmed that his PA confirmed that this morning that we're not on the agenda. I indicated that I thought that was a shame in light of the fact that in the 100 odd years we've been in business serving criminal justice in Canada, this is the first time that we'd actually asked to appear before an Ontario committee, and we didn't get the opportunity to do so. But having said that, that's the way it is. So we won't be appearing tomorrow, which is I still think is a shame, but it is what it is. So we'll see what happens. The committee will be wrapping up shortly. This is the last hearing they're going to have. So we'll see what they do with respect to passage, which, based on the majority, in the legislature, it's probably going to go through as it is. But let's wait and see if there's any amendments that come forward as a function of whoever does appear. I know that the Canadian Criminal Defense Lawyers Association, our delegation, their position is very similar to ours with respect to the nonsensical position of requiring cash for all surety applications. It's going to exponentially increase the number of those incarcerated without bail. And so anyway, apparently the premier has no problem in building more jails. So that's what they're going to have to do because the jails are overcrowded as they are. So we'll keep an eye on that and report back next month. The next item on the agenda is subcategory L, which is the Bill C-14, which is the reform bill before the Commons. And you guys will recall last meeting, we didn't get an opportunity to appear before the Commons Committee, the Justice Committee, because they truncated the process and didn't allow for us to appear. So we took it upon ourselves to basically see if we could appear before the Senate Committee on Legal and Constitutional Affairs. So I contacted the clerk of the Senate committee, asked again for us to appear as a delegation. We've heard back in that, we haven't been turned down or approved yet as a delegation. So I don't know what's happening there. They did ask if we would send our brief when I sent Dick's absolutely excellent paper that he prepared, which was before the Justice Committee at some point, and it's now before the Senate Committee as well. So they've got that in their hands, and we're waiting to hear back from the clerk of the committee. It's in my experience with requests to appear before committees before. Usually, again, if you're going to be appearing, they usually give you a little bit of notice and respond more quickly than they are doing at this point. So my guess at this point is that we're likely not going to be appearing before the Senate committee, which I'm sorry to say that's what I think is probably the result, but we'll know for sure, I would think, before the next meeting. So I'll let everybody know at that point. And if we are appearing, Dick and I will be on our way to Ottawa. So hopefully that's the outcome, but we'll wait and see. Any questions about that?
If I can, I'm curious, what's your opinion, Miles, on the kind of the reasoning that haven't so far been approved to go and speak at the House of Commons and the Senate, or I guess you're suspecting we might not get into the Senate either. Is it a timing issue or is it like a quality of work? I can't imagine that that's the problem, but what do you think?
They don't tell you. I mean, they don't, if you're not selected, they don't tell you why. And we've appeared, or the CCGA has appeared, several times over the years before these committees. I can't. I mean, Irving has more of an institutional memory than I do. I don't know if we've had any requests to appear before where we haven't been allocated time to appear. I don't know if this has happened before. It certainly didn't happen when we wanted to appear with respect to both the Commons and the Senate Committee regarding the Miscarriage of Justice Review Commission. We were gladly accepted for both of those, and I appeared, both times over the course of the last year and a half or so. So I don't know. I don't know why we wouldn't be readily accepted. The CCGA is well thought of. In parliamentary circles, there's no question about that. So I have no idea whether they've vetted our position and they don't want to hear from us, or they could be totally satisfied because Dick's paper is incredibly comprehensive. So they may not think it's necessary for us to take up their time because they have our brief in any event. So that's possible. I don't. I'm just guessing, but I mean, if we will hear, I would think in the next week or two whether we're appearing or not. And if we are given a reason, I'll certainly let everybody know what it is. I doubt that'll happen, however.
Mm, mhm.
Miles, pardon me, in my experience, it's a bit of a lottery because they get a lot of requests and they pick some, and obviously they have to reject some. And presumably, if they already have briefs that are similar to ours, they wouldn't necessarily require us to be present. So I wouldn't take it as a negative necessarily or as a rejection. It's just they have a certain amount of time allocated and they pick a few here and a few there, and that's how it's gone in the past.
Okay.
Yeah, and they do have briefs from the organizations that the Canadian Civil Liberties Association filed a brief that's very is not what Dick is proposing is an overhaul essentially of the
Yeah,
bail system, whereas other briefs may be more specific to the request to be amended, the section to be amended in this proposed
right.
legislation. So it's kind of like apples and oranges. But yeah, that's my understanding too. It is a bit of a lottery. So, whether we get on or not, uh, the rhyme or reason is up to the committee.
Mm. I understand what you're saying, though. I think you're saying that the brief that Dick prepared is very comprehensive, and so it might overlap some others that they already have approved that they're bringing already to the Senate.
Yeah, and it's also highly likely because the I know the Justice Committee had Dick's brief as well, and certainly what was passed by the Commons, the committee wasn't an overhaul of the bail system at all. It
No.
just dealt with it,
Mm,
and so the Senate may look at it and say, well, it's highly unlikely that the Senate will totally redo what is being sent to them by the Commons, right?
mhm,
And the Commons position isn't certainly what we proposed. So we're just guessing now, but I think that's probably fair.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
No, thank you. Thank you also for just advocating for us um, so well, the PRC when we were um, the one that we were turned down from. I appreciate, and I'm sure other people appreciate you advocating for us in that way.
Well, thanks, sir. Appreciate it. All right, guys. Let's move to bills under consideration. There's actually very
Well,
little.
Miles, could I add
Oh, I'm
something?
sorry, Dick. Go ahead. Back
I
up.
just thought I'd mention that I learned late last week that the John Howard Society of Canada has been invited and to appear before the committee, and they are taking the same position we are. And uh, my understanding is that the John Howard Society is basically acknowledging that this is not a major reform that's in Bill C-14. And their main pitch, as I understand it, is going to be to have an amendment added requiring a legislative review of the entire bail system uh, with some reporting required at some period of time. Who knows, maybe 3 years, 5 years, something like that. So
Mhm.
that seemed to be their recognition that that what really needs to be done is not being done with this bill. And maybe the Senate could make a contribution by saying we need a look at an overhaul or at least a rethinking of what's going on in bail. So, for what that's worth.
Well, thanks, Dick. That's great. I mean, if the John Hart Society is putting that forward, hopefully they pay attention because that's the essence of our proposal,
Mhm.
of our brief. So, that happens, then job well done. Thanks, Dick. Anything else, guys? Okay, moving on to legislation, Bill C9, which basically, since our last meeting, had third reading and in the Commons and first reading in the Senate, is now that's where it is. It had first reading on March the 26th. Sarah circulated just before the meeting a brief on Bill C9. Sarah, do you want to just go through that? I'm sure nobody had a time to read the brief before we met.
No, that's fair. Sorry, I should have gotten that to you guys earlier, but just timing this weekend was
Sure.
tricky. But yeah, I can kind of go through. There's not a lot that's being proposed that's not currently in the bill. So it's a lot of support for the current amendments that have already been made. Let me just pull it up quickly as I sent it to you. So there's the maintaining the Attorney General consent for hate propaganda prosecutions. So that was something that was taken out and then put back in. So we're just saying we support that. And then there's the use of accurate terminology for hate symbols. So one of the things that was changed was the use of the word swastika was in the bill. And there were some other briefs that we read that opposed this because the word swastika is actually is used in different religious context, and it's not the correct terminology for that symbol that is the Nazi, I can't say this, Hakenkreuz. So there was a kind of a support that should be changed. It should not be called the swastika in the bill. It should be the Nazi Hakenkreuz, so that it's accurate and so that it's not so that language that the word isn't being put in the bill as a hate crime related word. So we support that being changed. And then the removal of the religious belief defense. I think we talked about this as a group, but we are supporting that as well. And then the only thing that we are wanting to change or putting in as an amendment is hate symbols and property defacement. So currently in the bill, there's basically if somebody vandalizes something, and it's considered a hate crime because it's a hateful symbol and it's a vandalism of a hateful symbol, they can be prosecuted under vandalism charge or a hate crime charge. And we're saying that should just remain under vandalism. Like there's no need to double up or because they're only going to be able to be charged with one thing. Like it's making kind of maybe an unnecessary addition to the law that's already covered. It's already covered by vandalism. So that's the only thing that we have that kind of would be an amendment. And then we just had a section at the bottom of the bill about training and implementation considerations. Just that this bill is going to need a lot of careful implementation and training and public education as well. Yeah.
Thanks, Sarah. Any questions, anybody? Irving, the PRC hasn't had a chance to review it as a group, and usually that's what happens before we forward it to the board, to be approved, then to go to the Parliament. What do you suggest?
Well, can we give ourselves, I don't know, there's a lot of our PRC members are not online today. Can we give ourselves, say, 15 days or something and call it a deal and then send it off to, well, depending on commentary, right?
Right.
There may be a lot of comments. I really don't know. Would it be, what's the forecast timing of this in the Senate? Now it's gone through the House. It would have to come back for third reading, I guess, after the Senate. Is that where we're at?
It's had third reading in the Commons. It's now at first reading in the Senate, so it's going to need.
Okay, all
yeah,
right.
so it still has to go to second reading and committee.
And then royal proclamation.
So I think realistically, we probably have time.
Okay.
To have it circulate, to basically put everybody on notice that we'd like to take a look at it before our next meeting. And then if it's approved at our next meeting, which is the 12th of May, we could then forward it to the board and it'll get there before.
Give them a short turnaround time.
Yeah, and it'll get there before it hits committee. So that I think we're okay.
Now, of course, the Senate also will rise. We're going to be close to June by then, right?
Yes.
So we would have to presumably, if we make a decision or approve it on March 12th, send it to the board and ask for a quick turnaround by, I don't know, 10 days or something like that. And then
what I'll do,
committee.
when I send out the minutes and the video of today's meeting, I'll append a note to it regarding the bill and basically ask everybody to take a look at it and return any comments they have to us before our next meeting. And then we'll solidify our position on May the 12th and take it from there.
You know what, Miles, just a thought, perhaps we can do things in parallel and there's only 11 members on the board. We could send it at the same time,
Sure.
like right now, almost to the board to have them reflect upon it so that by the time we determine that this is the final copy or whatever, on May 12th, maybe we just give them 5 days. If there's anything in addition to any other comments they may provide in the meantime, we could send it off before the end of May. I would suggest that might work,
Okay, I can,
logistically speaking.
sure. Okay, I'll
I
put a
think
note to everybody then.
I think
And in
if that
fact,
go ahead.
pardon me, Sarah, all the
Mhm.
board members are on your list of distribution for these minutes and so on, right?
That's right.
So maybe in bold, we just highlight it to them, or I can do whatever you prefer, Miles.
Okay.
Great.
Um,
Sorry,
and
Sarah, go ahead.
Oh,
Pardon me.
you're okay. No, I was just gonna say the version that I've sent to you, Miles, to have kind of circulated is not including citations. So if you're gonna send a final copy for approval, let me know before you do that because I'm gonna work on a copy with citations. I use APA in all of my schoolwork, and so I don't do Chicago. So that's why I haven't done it yet because it's a bit of a learning curve for me, and I know our previous briefs are in Chicago. So I can work on that. I can have that done in a couple days if you need.
Yeah, okay, then I'll wait until you've done that, send it back to me, and then I'll send it out to everybody.
Okay, sounds good.
Good, thank you, thank you. Okay, that's C9. So Bill C12 received royal assent on March 26th. That deals with border security, which has been going since very close to the last election between Carney and Trump. So that's done. And Bill C14 we already discussed. That's the bail bill that is before the Senate, right? And those are the only changes to public bills in the Commons. There were very little private bills in the Commons, except with the exception of Bill C 272, which is on page 11 of the agenda. And this was just simply a private member's bill to indicate that there shouldn't be any basically drug sites within 500 meters of secondary schools, daycare centers, or playgrounds. Okay, so that's a private member's bill. There are no public Senate bills of interest to us. And when it comes to private Senate bills, there aren't any new ones either. So that's it. So relatively short order today. Any questions about anything? Oh, hang
Miles,
on.
can I go back on the previous conversation, please?
Sure.
Of the hate bill. Given the fact that the Commons has signed off on third reading, if the Senate approves whatever the Commons came out with, it goes through a proclamation, basically, and they determine when they want it to become law. If they were to suggest amendments, it's got to go back to the House, right? It's a government bill.
Yes.
So this could stretch out quite a piece of time if there are substantive and significant modifications proposed by the Senate, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to get that clear in my mind.
Yep. We're good. Matthew, we're just wrapping up. I'm sorry. If you were waiting there for a while, I'm sorry I missed seeing you. Nice to see
Well,
you now.
no, I was delayed. I was doing my taxes, and I should have gotten into the meeting earlier.
Well, nice to see you.
What you've been discussing the bail legislation?
Yes. Yeah, we just very briefly, we had a request to be a delegation before the Senate committee dealing with it, and we haven't heard it back yet. So we think we should hear in the next week or two if we've been accepted. Other groups, and this Dick brought to our attention, the John Howard Society has been approved for a delegation. We haven't been, so I don't think we think the chances of being approved for delegation aren't great, but we should have that confirmed shortly.
All right. I say many thank yous to Irving for your tenure as the executive director of CCJA, Irving. You've done a magnificent job of shepherding us on controversial issues. You've tolerated my left-wing position several times, bringing me back to a level of reality that John Braithwaite used to do marvelously.
Thank you, Matthew. By the way, I hope you're doing your taxes accurately. CRA has a special audit program for university prof types this year.
Well, I'm a retired university prof type, so
maybe you'll get away with
fingers.
it. Anyway, much appreciated, Matthew.
Very good. Anything else, anybody, for the good of the meeting? Okay, thank you very much. Again, I'll send out the note in a couple of days for when Sarah's finalized her brief. And we'll see everybody back here on May the 12th.
Super. Take care, guys.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye now.
Sounds good. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.